How are you feeling?
All right, thanks.
So, just to get started, go ahead and look at the camera and introduce yourself. First and last name, the school we're at today, and what you taught.
Okay. My name is Allison Scurr. I teach 5th grade at Owen Elementary in Naperville, Illinois.
Perfect. And you said 5th grade? Okay, perfect. So we'll start off. We want to understand the decisions you made in planning for this lesson and how it fits into the unit in the year. How does this lesson connect to and build on students' prior skills and knowledge?
We have just started recently practicing comparing and contrasting across text. So this is a very new skill for the kids. We've done it with fictional literature, and the lesson that you saw today was probably the maybe second or third time they've used this with nonfiction text. So we're just at a point right now where we're sort of getting comfortable with it, and I wanted to pick something that was interesting for them, so I picked some cliffhanger pieces and also pieces that are related to things that we've studied, especially in history. We talked a little bit about European explorers and their impact on these continents, which is why the smallpox article was kind of a great fit there. That's where we're at right now.
Okay, great. Is the text used in this lesson part of a sequence of text designed to build skills and knowledge? If so, please give an example of that. Okay, let's just
yeah.
Is the text used in this lesson part of a sequence of text designed to build skills and knowledge?
You know what, the texts that I chose, they're nonfiction but told in a more narrative manner, which I thought, given the length, would be a little bit, I don't want to say easier for the students to grapple with, but slightly more familiar for them. So I guess in that regard, I did want to give them challenging text kind of in baby steps, kind of get them ready for more complex informational text. And I don't know, I think I'm going to stop there.
Okay, not a problem.
I keep losing my thought
No
halfway through.
It's been a long day. Okay, talk about the standards targeted in this lesson. What did you do to make this lesson reflect the full intent of that standard?
This lesson focused mainly on the RI4 and RI5 standard. RI4 focuses on the content, vocabulary, and we did spend some time in the lesson talking about particular terms and why they're so important to the meaning of the text, words that the kids wouldn't typically use in conversation. So I thought it was important to really hit on that, in addition to RI5, which is comparing across texts, and that was really what the full focus of the lesson was about. So I felt like those two standards really were pretty clear in the majority of the lesson.
Which of the core action indicators do you think this lesson best exemplifies?
I think that core action 2, many of those indicators are clear in the lesson. The expectation that the students have to prove their point by pulling out evidence from the text and being able to point to where they're getting their information from. And the questions that I was asking them or trying to probe their thinking with require them to go back into the text and pull out evidence, make some inferences, and skills like that.
We're interested in how the shifts required by the CCSS are being incorporated into your instruction. Discuss how this lesson illustrates the shifts required by the CCSS.
One of the shifts that I think should be evident in the lesson is the graphic organizer or the independent activity I had the students work on.
Trevor Walker, please come to the main office. Trevor Walker, please come to the main office.
I had them comparing and contrasting articles, but I tiered it intentionally so that first they have to demonstrate that they can find relevant differences. Then once I checked in with them and felt they were ready, I gave them the go-ahead to move on to finding similarities, which is more challenging. And then after checking in with them again, I gave them the go-ahead to work on using the vocabulary in their own words, and then finding big thematic ideas that were shared. So I did have to be mindful about how to make it, rigorous and challenging for all the kids to use the same piece of text.
How did you teach the content of the lesson prior to the CCSS? What's the same and what's different?
Well, honestly, I don't think prior to this year and working on the ELA standards, I don't think I had ever really intentionally compared and contrasted across texts. Maybe if something was coincidental or just happened to, work out in such a way that there were commonalities between things we were studying, but basically, I'm just getting my feet wet with intentionally finding pairs of reading that the kids can compare and contrast. So I can't really say that it's in one particular unit. We're sort of doing it across the day in different subject areas. Did you want me to say, what was the next part of the question?
They're asking what's the same and what is different from, how did you teach the content of this lesson prior to the CCSS? What is the same and what is different?
Well, I think in the past, one thing that definitely would have been different, we've done compare and contrast before. That skill is not new, but never with two different pieces of reading. It would have been like within the text, characters or events or things that had happened, and probably not with informational text either. So that is definitely something I would not have done before, and something that the kids are getting more comfortable grappling with.
Student engagement is crucial to the work of the CCSS. We want to understand how you ensured that all students had the opportunity to productively engage in the work of the lesson. How did you support all students in working with the grade level text? For example, how do you provide scaffolding for students below grade level so they can read at grade level text?
I did a variety of things to meet all the students' needs with both pieces of text. They had read it once the day before, either with me, with a partner, so that when they came to that piece of text the second day, they were already familiar with it, so that we could dive deeper into it and know that they were understanding it more. It was their second or third time looking at the text. As I said it before, I tiered one of the tasks so that it could really kind of meet all students' needs with the same piece of reading material. I tried to give the kids, time limits so that they could kind of gauge their use of time and make sure everybody was productive. I wanted everybody to participate. There's always kids that are gonna refrain from some group activity stuff, so I gave them all turn and talk cards with cues for questions to ask their neighbors in discussion, specifically thinking of certain kids that would really benefit from that. And I think that's it.
How do you know the students were able to successfully respond to the text-dependent questions and tasks with precision?
I know the kids were being precise, especially if when I was speaking with them one-on-one and checking in with them, by probing their thinking, asking them to verify and prove their point, to go back in the text and say, this is where I found this information, and in this text, this is where I found this information. So holding them accountable. They couldn't just conjure up a connection they had, but to actually find evidence. That was sort of how I was checking in with the kids before allowing them to move on to the next tier of the activity.
What did you do for students who did not acquire the literary skills addressed in this lesson?
Though students that struggled, I think the skills that I focused on in this lesson, the content vocabulary, the comparing and contrasting across texts, those are things I can also address in smaller guided reading groups or smaller group work. And that's something we do on a daily basis. So I feel like maybe we just can be more productive and perhaps just a more intimate setting.
Which behaviors from core action 3 did the students best exemplify in this lesson, and what actions have you taken as a teacher to make that happen?
I think in core action 3 that providing the conditions for everybody to be productive and successful is really important. That's why I gave the kids, time frames and reminders of, how much time they had left. I gave them opportunities to work alone, to, share their thinking with partners, and also to express their ideas in writing or in pictures. I thought that might be a way to kind of meet all of my students' needs. What was the next part?
It's still talking about core action 3, so which behaviors from
Oh,
core action
okay.
3 did the students best exemplify?
Right.
What actions have you taken as a teacher to make that happen?
Okay. I think also in core action 3, expecting evidence and precision from the students, holding them accountable to being able to explain their thinking and give a thoughtful response, not just rattling off a very quick recall type answer from the text, but having to give some insight. I think that was evident as well.
Okay. Last 2 questions. Great instructors are continuously learning. We want to understand what you celebrated in this lesson and what you would improve upon. Reflecting on the lesson, what worked particularly well and what might you do differently?
Well, in the lesson, I think I was very impressed with a lot of the students' comparisons between the text and with some of the contrasting they did. I did the exercise myself and had notes of my own thinking, and many of them came up with answers that were really different than what I would have thought of myself. So I really celebrated that, and not just my academically talented students, but really from a variety of kids. I was very impressed with their thinking. I had planned on doing a full lesson, and clearly it's going to be a 2-day lesson. So we had to stop at one point. We'll have to finish up the next day. And I'm always looking for ways to kind of make sure that all the kids are really engaged and accountable. And I think that went pretty well today.
Great. Were there any surprises or unexpected student behaviors or reactions?
Yes, I anticipated that one particular student might throw me a curveball, and he did. He was very excited. Yesterday, he knew we were going to be taping. He knew all the particulars of what was going to happen, who was going to be in the room. And when it came down to it today, he was just very reluctant to start. And eventually, he just sort of got up and left the room and said he was too nervous to participate. So he ended up joining a neighbor's class just for a little while. So that I was disappointed by, but I anticipated that could happen. So I wasn't completely surprised.
You're done?
Yay.
Right?